Right after the open. Yeah.
Okay, Okay, should be ready to go, Mr. Chairman.
Call the meeting of the Finance Committee to order on October 7th, 2021.
Also, open up the Board of Selectmen meeting, it's October 7th, and it's about 6:01. I'll ask for a roll call of our members, it's a Zoom meeting also. Dr. Z? Aye. Dr. Hill? Aye. And the chief is also present.
If we're going to do a roll call, Robert Renner. Here. Kevin Berry.
Aye. Here.
Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Selectman Chico, I'll move forward with our agenda, but if you want to step in any time.
Thank you.
Our next item would be reviewing the special town meeting warrant. And the first thing I think to go over, I mentioned to you guys, the free cash isn't certified yet. DOR said that it will be certified by town meeting, special town meeting. So we can't give a full recommendation on using free cash because it doesn't exist right now. But we can either give an opinion today and hold off and meet again prior to the special town meeting and then give a recommendation, or we can give a recommendation today subject to free cash being certified.
I would say if you want, let's go through the recommendations and make it contingent on that being certified at the number that we're working off of.
Mhm.
And if not, then we could reconsider something out of free cash, maybe flip into raise and appropriate if need be, if we feel that that's important. So I'd say maybe the lesser, not priority, so to speak, but maybe we'll put those as R&A if free cash fails. And if R&A isn't gonna be there because it's too high, then we'll have to push it off to the annual. Is that okay? Is that acceptable?
I concur.
Yeah.
So the free cash number we're working on right now is 1533.
Yes.
1,533. 1533. Okay. Just a couple other numbers to give you guys before we start. Stabilization coming into today was $1,449,000. Capital stabilization $1,033,000.
Can you repeat that one more time?
Second one, capital stabilization,
Yeah.
$1,033,000.
Thank you.
Rather than reading through our spreadsheet, I think I'm gonna just take it down by the draft warrant article numbers. Go line by line there. Article 2, prior bill for $80.93. And that is a council on aging bill.
Originally in the spreadsheet, I apologize, we thought we were gonna have a council on aging bill, but at this point, it's only an ACO bill to pay a prior year bill that we received in March to the Mass Rhode Island Veterinary Emergency Room. So the 8093 is just one bill submitted by the ACO for the Mass Rhode Island Veterinary.
Any questions on that? Take a motion.
Is that gonna be R&A?
Yes,
Raise and appropriate?
Yeah. No, actually we would transfer from available funds from the ACO existing, the FY22 appropriation to pay for it.
Okay.
So it's not coming from free cash, it's coming from their current year budget.
Yes.
Right. We're gonna have to let the moderator know, because I think that changes the vote.
Okay, well,
I'm not exactly certain, but I'm
Any
pretty sure.
prior, doesn't it have to be over 2/3?
Yeah.
we got I sent out to the chair the other day, the town council's ruling, on which articles are needed, the 2/3, and, what articles, actually needed a simple majority. I believe Article 1 was not 2/3 vote, it was a simple majority, but I can confirm and we can, I'll absolutely make sure the moderator knows.
I wanna say that we can't pay for it out of our current year budget. It's either gotta be raised and appropriate or a paid from free cash. We cannot take money from
Right.
a budget that we established at annual
Mhm.
and move it to a prior year, is my understanding.
I'll double check that,
Yeah, I think he's correct.
okay.
Yeah, I think it's correct, because any money
So-
that was left in the budget would have been,
So I think our motion is to recommend, is R&A, which is typically what we have done for an operating expense, especially the small nature of this. Is R&A, however, if it does come back, we can transfer from the current year, then,
Okay.
I have no problem reducing the current year's budget, right? So I think it's, the motion I will make is, to, recommend, transferring from the current year budget to the prior year, to pay this prior year bill from the, animal control officer budget. And if that is not an option, then we raise and appropriate the $80.93.
so moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Alright, Article 3 is, see if the town will vote to transfer from available funds a sum not to exceed $379,675 to make the payment on the bond of the police station to reduce the tax rate or take any other action thereof. So this is just the normal
Transfer, we make it transfer for the,
for free cash.
or so moved.
And second,
All in favor? All opposed? Second. Article 4. To raise and appropriate a sum of $34,543.82 to fund FY22 personnel expenses for employees covered under the recently settled police officers local 306 agreement, take action thereof. So this is all for wages in the current year?
It's a balance of money that's owed, the contract that was just recently approved. So it's the balance of, well, it's the whole fiscal year.
Okay.
Retro as well as current.
Nothing back into last year.
No.
Any questions? Take a motion to raise and appropriate.
So moved.
second,
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
May I ask a question?
Sure.
Mike?
Yes.
Excuse me, Mr. Administrator, if the, just for my own knowledge, even though we all seem to be in agreement that we may recommend this, if the town meeting were to, in general, not this article, but in general, did not vote favorably to fund a contract, what happens?
We would go back to square, we would go back to the table with the police union. Based on that, but like at this point, because we have a legally binding, CBA, we have to advocate for it. And then advocate for it, in my opinion, a lot of, our work in advocating for it is making sure that, we in the town are able to support and live by the perimeters in the CBA. And that's why we fought, and worked with the union, and we're very strong, in our position. That we in the Board of Selectmen would support a contract, that included 2% raise in year one, the 2% years in year two, and a 2.5%, cost of living, increase in year three. And that framework is, it's following the framework that other towns are doing, and it's very fiscally responsible and appropriate.
Well, that has nothing to do with us.
No?
Number 6, see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate amount of $11,142.81 to fund an increase in the health agent salary, take any other action. So this is an increase and an increase in hourly rate and an increase in hours?
Yes, he's going from, we're asking him to go from 20 to 35 hours. And
From
also
20 to 35?
28.
28 to 35.
35. We've seen the amount of work that has happened over the past couple of years, especially with the pandemic. We're also asking for an increase in salary. I think it's a 38.86.
It would increase from 37.04 to 38.86.
We looked at various wages for water health agents in the area, and this is in line with that. It's actually a little less than water health agents in the area.
It's the same study as in the spring, or? It was-
Yes. I'm looking and assessing the information. We looked at the study that was performed and provided to the BOS and the FinCom in the spring. And actually since then, there's been a study by actually another community in the area. Which provided additional context and supported, and also supported the information that was provided to the FinCom and the Board of Selectmen in the spring.
Question I have, so I want to say the health agent went from 20 to 28?
Well, 2020 started off in 2017 and 20. I'm not sure. It might have been 2019. We went to 28. Now it's 35. We're asking.
And the increase in time that they need, nothing to do with COVID.
Well, COVID is temporary, so I mean,
Yeah.
hopefully 6 months a year, we're not talking about COVID anymore. But just increasing the work of drug tests and everything else, it takes 2 hours of his time to do a drug test. I think he had, what was it, maybe 14 maybe last month?
Like 16 in the month of September alone, just for perk tests.
How is that number changing?
I think what else, I think what it, but we also did a study on the hours of the water health agents in the area, also did a study, and also showed that most were 35 or more
Yeah,
hours.
everyone's at 35.
So I just wanted to add, 2 hours for a perk test is actually, would be a good thing for him. Sometimes they can take 3 or 4 hours, and I went on one with him, because I also kind of wanted to see the push and pull for him specifically between the field work and then what's expected of him in the office. And so if you're out and you have, I don't know, I'm gonna make up a number, 16 divided by 4, you have 4 a week, and they're taking 3-4 hours a day, and you only have 28 hours, I mean, there's not much room left there to even do like the contact tracing, so. And that's the pandemic stuff, not even the regular work that he has. And the bulk of this increase is the hours, so just giving the rationale, but I think it's been tough for him to keep up with the stuff in the office and then also keep up with the field work and people wanting, you know, their homes to be, or renovations or whatever they're doing to be completed on time, so.
I have questions, go ahead.
How often in special town meetings has the town voted for a significant increase in pay during midterm rather than the annual town meeting? How often has that been done?
Not very often. We
Yeah.
prefer to see these at annual.
Regarding FinCom's philosophy and procedures, what has been the compass of the guiding
We would,
philosophy about making those appropriations?
I would say in general, like Robert said, we tend to look at hours and position as something that would be more appropriate as annual
right,
than special.
especially now, because of the fact that, you happen to mention contact tracing, so there's still some COVID going on yet, okay? So it might be after this levels out, next June, we have our meeting. This might not even be a situation where he needs the hours anymore. So if we were to vote to pay what we need to right now and maybe revisit it at annual, I think that would be more appropriate. I think anytime you're gonna increase someone's salary, I think that's a good time to do it is at annual, when we're looking at the whole budget, not just a small piece of it.
Right, totally agree with Kevin. One of the things I would like to present to the townspeople is the fact that this is the annualized increase. When people see this $11,000, when we go to annual next year, they're gonna ask, why is this $11,000 all of a sudden, $13,000, $14,000, $15,000? It's because the $11,000 had to be annualized for the next fiscal year. So when you present them with this, it really needs to be explained that this is only covering from the time it goes into effect. Essentially, you're less, 4 months already, right?
It'd be 7 months left on the con, on November 1st, if this is ratified, it'd be 7 months left.
I don't know, when would this go into effect, December 1st?
November 1st.
Well, then
It's approved.
that would be 8 months, right? November and December plus the remaining
Yes,
6 months.
7 months, actually, 7 months. 8 months, yes, 7.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're looking at, this represents 2/3 of what his annual increase really truly is. So you're looking at $17,000 for the next fiscal year. And we like to present the townspeople with that big picture of that fact. We're not opposed to doing it, especially when it's warranted. And I think that we've substantiated it enough here between the volume increase of what he's doing on top of the additional paperwork that's necessary to support the volume, plus the COVID testing. I'm not in support of this at this time. It's just when we go to annual town meeting, when it comes time for discussion, I would expect somebody from the Board of Selectmen who's put this before us, since they own the Board of Health in this particular role, to explain to the townspeople that this is for the remainder of the year, and when we annualize it, it's gonna be this number.
And
I want, sorry, no, first.
the other thing I don't like about, well, let me not say I don't like about it, but I don't agree with the way this is written to increase the health agent salary. I mean, I could see, in retrospect, they're increasing his hours in order to go to the number that we're going to. The way this is written right now, if we decide to do the 11,142, now 81, we've almost agreed to his increase already for next year, because we would be approving this now. Now, if it was written in such a way that this is to increase the hours needed in order to facilitate the position and to do the work that it currently needs and revisit it at annual, I would feel much more comfortable with it. It seems like if we make a decision tonight, this is done. And as far as I'm concerned, at annual next year, we are gonna be voting on an increase, because it says it right here, you've given him an increase, you're giving that person an increase. I don't like the way it's written. I think it binds us. And we can't even say at annual, we'll revisit it, because this right here pretty much puts it in place. Do you agree, or?
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's the only problem I have. I'm not in favor of voting on this tonight to approve it, myself personally. And I know it can't be changed before the article's already out, we're too close to the special town meeting now to change anything.
So I believe the articles are in place, but there could be amendments.
Not just that, but whoever reads it, can't they just read it and read it in the proper way, not whatever?
It all
It
depends,
has been submitted by the Board of Health, yeah. This is what has been submitted by the Board of Health.
yeah,
Oh, yeah, in terms of the wording, that doesn't mean, that the language, it has to be recommended.
right.
Or presented to the town meeting.
I would be happy to make a recommendation based on the hour increase and the dollar value that it's gonna cost the town to complete the year, but I'd like to revisit at annual. I don't wanna commit, because those other towns, they may be paying X amount of dollars, but they may only be working so many hours. And we don't really know yet, until this whole crisis is over, if it's gonna necessitate those additional hours.
Can I piggyback off your point, Mr. Chairman?
Yes,
I also, the concerns I have about the specific wording are, not everyone is as deep in the nuances of what the health agent is doing and why this is here, right? We are. The way, if I were a resident reading this, I would think that this person is getting an $11,000 raise and not working anymore, hours.
Yeah, I think that's right.
That's my point. All we're doing is, we're saying, yeah, here's your increase. We're not really stipulating, but on paper here, the information we have, what the town doesn't have, is that it's an increase in hours, and that's the way I want it to be. I would prefer, if we motion it, it's gonna be worded in such that
I
way,
agree, 100%.
okay? And it's gonna be for the balance of this fiscal year, and it's not gonna carry over. It would be a vote to see if we wanna increase the salary next year. I would be comfortable with that.
So, am I correct though that it is the Board of Selectmen that would be increasing its hours? In other words, if this figure passes, then we would, at our next meeting, because right now he's working 28 hours, because of the CARES Act, he's actually working more hours.
Right.
CARES Act for his, and for this. But this doesn't increase his hours, this is what we're representing. So even if this
So, yeah,
this passes, we still, I think,
Yes.
go to the Board of Selectmen
yes,
and say, we're now increasing your hours to 35, not changing the budget,
Yeah.
but now to 35 at whatever rate, or that 38, whatever changes.
But then there's no way to pay for it if we don't.
But we're gonna pay for, this is gonna pass for us.
yes.
Say that whoever makes the motion, says the chairman of the Board of Health, is gonna make the motion, needs to explain to the residents
Yes.
where this figure came from. That it's not just,
And ideally, as I mentioned, that explanation would have been provided, like in the article that was submitted by the Board of Health, because that would have framed it in, like in a more, I guess, understandable way.
So,
Right, it really should have read the amount of 11,000 and change to fund an increase in the health agent hours
Correct.
from 28 to 35 hours per week.
that, do you wanna make that motion and motion it that way? I would be comfortable with that, but I'm not comfortable with the way it's currently written.
Now, this has to be amended on the town floor, correct? Or can it be amended here?
Well, I don't think, you guys haven't approved anything yet, have you?
we have, this next Wednesday, we'll be approving warrants.
There you go, so we can still change it.
We
So
can,
you can still.
it can be fixed, I don't want to say we should or can't, it can.
Yeah. So, Robert, do you wanna reread that motion? Do you wanna make it as a motion? We'll change.
Well, this isn't a motion from us, right? We don't have to make a motion. Our motion would be to not recommend this article as written.
Right, so let's,
Okay, and then we would leave it up to the Board of Selectmen
yeah,
to amend the article.
is that okay?
And then when we get back together, once we get free cash certified, you can,
Then we can-
before the meeting, then we can recommend, make the
Absolutely.
recommendation based on what the new article is written.
So at this point, we're just gonna leave it as no recommendations. Okay. All right. There we go. Yeah, you're right, Robert, it's not the night of the meeting, we don't change it.
One last time.
He's a chair.
I'm sorry. I don't know. I'm looking at both of you. I totally understand and respect the position of the finance committee, which has been long-standing to do these things at the annual town meeting. I can recall an instance in the past regarding an office manager when the situation was remedied at a special town meeting. It's not ideal, I totally agree. Mr. Commissioner. I think there were reasons why this couldn't be addressed at the annual town meeting, last annual town meeting, partly because things needed to be cut, obviously, so this was not a priority. So I just wanted to also let you know that as well, that we as a board, I'm sure, fully understand, and I'm not saying we all agree with this article, that I'm sure we don't, but, and I respect that very much. But I also respect your process, so I don't want you to have the impression that the Board of Health or the Board of Selectmen doesn't respect that position. We do very much. It's more remedying a situation that we unfortunately couldn't address back in June.
Well, that's fine. We understand the situation is gonna come up after the fact.
So, thank you, Mr. Chair, like, one of the things that happened, if you recall, during the FinCom process, in the spring as well, on this issue in particular, there was a lot of back and forth. And there was a conversation with the former chair, of the FinCom at that time, that especially with, all the contract tracing going on with the sales act reimbursements, that we, all of us would take the summer, can look at it and we, can revisit it and come back to present something, after fall. So we, in the board, haven't done this lately, but it was part, of the plan, if you will, set in motion in the spring as well.
Right, yeah, understood. Okay, so,
Does that answer your question? Does that answer your question?
Yes. This is my field. I will instruct you.
all right,
All right, so we will hold on Article 6 until next meeting or prior to, especially. Article 7, Article 7, do we even need a?
that comes from.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah,
Because that still comes from us. To see if the town will vote to raise, appropriate, or transfer from available funds an amount of $10,057.50 to reimburse sewer enterprise fund for unused FY21 employee health insurance premiums budgeted paid to the town of Dayton, or take any other action thereof.
So,
Well, I think we
Mike,
also, I think this
You've got
is
a note
transfer.
to defer this?
Yes, my recommendation is this point to defer it. What actually happened, after the FY21 budget was set and approved by town meeting, the FY21 budget included indirect costs, for the sewer commission, in the sewer department, to include a full year's worth of health insurance, for a sewer department employee. Halfway through the process, or halfway through the year, I'm sorry, the employee of the sewer department actually went off the town's health insurance. At that time, from what I understand, there was a conversation, with the former town accountant, where the employee on behalf of the sewer department asked, if the sewer department could be reimbursed, for the FY21 health insurance, fees or costs that wouldn't, actually be spent, for the remaining 6 months of the year. At the time, from what I understand, the town accountant said no because the budget was set, and the sewer department has reapproached the issue with an article warrant submission now. I have looked at it, I understand that the budget was set. But in my opinion, if we're gonna have a conversation about this, I wanna, I'll also have a broader conversation about all the indirect costs that are paid by the sewer department, if they're up to date. Yeah, and all that, so to just, like actually just this one issue as a one-off, without there being any type of indirect policy. Yeah, okay. So yeah, if we look at this whole picture more broadly, I think that would be helpful, and that's my recommendation.
What other kind of indirect costs do we support as a town for the sewer district?
In terms of through the enterprise funded building, we provide space in the building, which in other communities they charge for. Like I have some type of recognition of. I believe, in our accounting department as well. Our accounting department, handles a lot of their information as well, which we don't charge so anything for, but to look at all those things and see exactly where we are, and if where we are is sufficient, that's great, and if any changes need to be made, now the time to do that.
Assuming treasurer collector also.
Yes.
I'm assuming it's nothing that's been addressed during your time. You did relook at these indirect costs for any, costs go up every year, so.
Yeah, and I believe it's been a while, so.
Okay. Well, I guess take a vote to not support, not recommend.
Yes, and just another one we're gonna have to revisit prior to town meeting, right?
Will you, in 3 weeks, will that be all set, or is that gonna be something that's pushed off?
See, I think, I think that is a more long-term look. Probably involve the financial management review. That is gonna be upcoming as well, so I think that's a more.
It won't even start until.
Exactly, yeah, I don't think it's gonna be solved in 3 weeks.
So we're gonna say not recommend pending additional review?
Is that a motion?
Yes. Not recommend pending additional review.
Second.
All in favor? All opposed?
This is really about policy though.
Yes.
More than anything.
Yeah.
Yes.
If it's a policy thing, does it involve the Board of Selectmen? Meaning, if something needs, or should, I shouldn't say needs, should be changed or altered
Yes.
in how we approach these things, is that gonna come before this board?
Yes, absolutely, and whether we have a policy that governs it at all.
Sure.
Absolutely.
And I assume we would work with, obviously, the finance.
Yes, so yeah, this is part of.
I think we're just gonna act upon the policy that is established. We don't form policy, that's not our bailiwick.
See if Article 8, to see if the town will vote to reappropriate the sum of $30,000 from special article account 5850 inspection vehicle, approved in Article 11 of the special town meeting on November 16th, 2020, to raise and appropriate transfer from free cash sum of $10,000 for a total sum of $40,000 to be expended by the building commissioner to purchase and letter one hybrid vehicle to be used for inspection services, take action thereof. Cost of the vehicle went up.
No, we can't get the one that was voted upon, so it's just not available. So the alternative was to look at other manufacturers, and yes, the cost is increased.
It's hard to get any vehicles right now, period, so.
Yeah, when I came up with that figure, there was one available, but
Yeah.
I doubt it will be very.
How long are we on this one, if we,
They can't hold it down without a deposit, so it's
You
just
might-
a handshake.
right, do you mind if I ask what kind of, what we're probably?
Chevy EUV, so it's a long version of the EV,
Yeah,
so.
yeah, Cool.
gives us a little more room for some equipment,
Yeah,
because the health department we use it too. So we'll just hope we can get one.
Well, part of the problem was that the article that, where the monies were approved was very specific, and I believe it said something like a Ford Escape hybrid.
yeah.
And so when we were talking about this, we obviously thought it would be better not to specifically name the vehicle, especially with all the manufacturer
Oh, yeah.
issues right now, so I think you did a good job on this. I want to
Yeah.
appreciate you bringing that.
That would have to help. It would be nice to have one,
Yeah,
that cruiser is tired, so,
that was
I don't even
tight,
drive.
that was tight when you got it.
yeah.
It was at the inspection, the perk test.
All right, so, and that's coming out of,
How did this get here?
that's free cash.
That changes. It needs to be part one, it's more.
To withdraw that one.
And to basically says it's no longer. It's just. Yeah, so my question here is that I understand the intent of not naming the vehicle in here, but that changes what the townspeople voted on back
Last November.
last November. So I think there needs to be another article inserted in here that rectifies that. So that townspeople can first vote on changing it from the Ford hybrid to any electrical vehicle, as determined by, in this case, does it say in here the building commissioner? Yeah, the building commissioner, okay. And then this article would then follow it, which is to fund using what was funded prior, plus the additional 10,000.
Because otherwise the 10 would be free to use on any, but the 30 would still have to be on.
Be on that particular.
No, we can't get.
It says reappropriate.
Yeah, but the reappropriate just really means take it from this one
vote to another.
vote to another vote, but that,
These are.
if the old one had said just an electric vehicle to an electric vehicle, now you're talking equal parts, that's what the townspeople voted on. When you take it from the description of one to a generic, you're changing.
So is
the
that
essence
something,
of
is
it.
that something we can do?
Yeah, yeah.
So-
It's not solidified, yeah.
We have to do it for our meeting,
Yes.
when we take our votes next week.
I'm just wondering, but if we're reappropriating the $30,
The 30.
I'm sorry, 30,000. And those funds are gonna be combined, for a total sum of $40,000. For the purchasing letter of one hybrid vehicle, wouldn't the latter part, of that article take the place? Can supersede the article that was approved by town meeting last year because of the word reappropriate.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
I think that's something for our attorneys to determine.
Yeah,
There was, within the last 2 years, there was an article that we had to do this to,
Okay.
they pulled it back, changed it, and then the next article was.
right, the two articles,
Yeah.
yeah, one to reappropriate it, and then one to get the full
Yeah.
amount to the other one, taking 30 from the 30 reappropriating and then taking another 10. Yeah,
So can we get something from council before next Wednesday's meeting on this?
So absolutely, I would have thought if our council would be, huh?
They catch that when they review it.
I would have thought they would have picked that up.
Yeah, because this, the way the article reads, a town is called inspectional vehicle, but if they didn't have the wording from the article from the prior meeting that said it spells out
what it was.
what it was, then they probably wouldn't have caught it unless they were going back.
Yeah.
But if we speak to council and they say.
If they say it's okay,
If they
then-
agree, then we
Okay.
still have time to fix it.
Yeah,
Yes, yeah, no,
Either way,
okay,
yeah,
well,
yeah, absolutely.
okay, that's fine.
Now
But in terms of the intent of the article,
Right.
It's better to have this conversation now
Oh, good.
than we have to wait for the vehicles.
Oh, sure.
Then I want to be able to find a vehicle.
So,
so in terms of the intent of the article, the first article really should state, we're gonna reappropriate this $30,000 for the purchase of a Ford hybrid to any type of hybrid vehicle. And then the next article should be raise and appropriate or free cash, depending on what we decide here. $10,000 due to the lack of inventory, increase in price, availability, all that, whatever, however we want to term
No,
it.
I give you some.
that article, we won't have to vote on because that's just changing the wording, right? We don't have to give a recommendation.
We don't have to give a well, do we have to give a recommendation? No, because our money's still set aside.
Just
Well, on the 34, absolutely, but on the additional.
Yeah, in addition.
And the same thing.
Okay, so I put that check of conscience.
In regard to that article, the only thing we're really voting on is to see if the town will vote to transfer from free cash a sum of $10,000.
Right.
To be expended by the building commissioner to purchase and letter one hybrid vehicle to be
Right.
inspection services. This, do you even mention Article 11 then? This is combined with Article 11 of special town meeting on November 16th for a total purchase of $40,000.
I think you're gonna have to because it's referencing back to that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they can leave that part out alone.
Yeah.
I just think, as Robert's saying, just to make sure we cover the specific of why it's being done, and it was a said vehicle, because you could have had people, not that anybody would be saying, oh, I really want that.
Yeah, I think Article 8 really needs to see, to read something to the effect of, to see if the town will vote to supplement the sum of $30,000 from the special article approved at town meeting with a transfer of $10,000. I think that's really what we're after here, right?
Because it's really reappropriated in the article before.
Right.
Right, so once you approve that, because if that doesn't pass, then you're not gonna do anything on that.
Because you can't get before, so.
Yeah. Okay. So that takes care of it.
Is that a motion?
I think we have to wait to see how this
Yeah.
gets rewritten, but
So,
I think,
so at this point, we're all.
but I think from the free cash number that we're working with.
Yeah.
We should account for the $10,000.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we'll definitely keep that in there.
So,
All right, Article 9. See if the town will transfer from free cash some not to exceed $13,000 to be expended by the Board of Selectmen for the purchase and installation of one high-efficiency HVAC unit at the town hall.
So this is the third of the units that we knew were going to fail. We replaced 2 of them last year. There are 4 units over there. One services the vault. That was a good operating addition. This is number 3 of the 3 that we knew were bad. We replaced 2, and this is the last one. It did fail. It's not working.
This is a replacement, not a new system.
Replacement, but we are replacing them with high efficiency
Yeah.
systems.
These aren't split systems, these are regular systems.
These are regular systems, regular forced hot systems, gas fired, but they're 97% efficient, so.
Yeah, nice.
And we went with train, we went with good equipment, so.
Good.
Jim, which part of the building is this for?
the assessors and the town administrator's office.
Just in the front part, right?
Yeah, I really don't matter if you're in the assessor's office.
Good thing you can get the link when you get it. Absolutely.
The portables that we bought,
Yeah.
Selectmen, yeah, we use those. I
Yeah.
don't know, we
They
got
got
them,
them.
yeah, we use that, so. That was good.
They paid for themselves.
They did.
Any problems getting them in? Before it gets too cold?
The heat still works, so I'm not so concerned. If we have to wait, especially with the environmental contractors right now, then as long as we can get to the spring, we will be.
This would be
That's a good question. I am gonna shake it down and make sure that it works, but last time I checked it did, so.
That's all right.
Any other questions?
Now, you asked me that.
Right, yes.
I'll make a motion to accept Article 9 as read.
Is transfer from free cash?
Yes.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Article 10, see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate sum of $15,000 to be expended by the Board of Selectmen to purchase cybersecurity insurance policy and necessary equipment and accessories to establish a secure two-factor authentication process for town employees.
Yes. So one of the things I did, if it's okay, Mr. Chairman, as part of our like insurance process, like in the renewal process that we went through in June, I met with our insurance agent, and I found out that we had, issues with our current cybersecurity, coverage and what, it would actually cover. When we went out, actually to, our current insurer on that, he provided a quote which was, in my view, high. When we reach out to Maya through the MMA, we do have a quote at this point that is much, it's much more reasonable and sustainable because it is acting operational costs. And the policy itself has been quoted to cost approximately $10,000 a year with the additional $5,000 for the multi-factor authentication.
Would this cover us for ransomware and stuff? Would it cover,
Yes.
what would it cover us for? Just to get our computers back and working? To replace computers if the ransomware damages them? How much does it cover us for?
So all of the above, we would be covered, we would be covered for like $1 million per incident. $3 million in the aggregate per year. Additionally, one of the major things is because we do, actually have really good backups and like a network, and all that firewalls, thankfully, we're really good there. However, if we, as a town or any of our vendors were breached, we also have legally required, a bunch of legally required classes and liability as well. Again, the policy would cover that as well, which is especially important. When we look at what happened in New Bedford a few years ago, we look at the social engineering issue that happened in Franklin 2 years ago, where a proposed vendor, he built a relationship with a town employee. And after a period of a few months, he talked the employee into actually wiring money over to him. And that is it's problematic for many reasons, but that term is actually called social engineering, and that's covered through a policy like this as well. And I also did a survey, of all of our local communities, and about 3 around us have it.
And now we have a consultant firm that does our,
yes.
what was their feeling, same thing? That we should-
Yeah, he recommended,
He's the one that recommended it?
yeah, we have extremely strong firewalls.
Yeah.
We have extremely strong backup protection.
Yeah, but,
Yeah, but it's all the other liability
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
associated with this.
yeah, it just takes one email that somebody opens.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, being victim of this at one time with a large company, I definitely understand it and support it. It can get pretty ugly,
Is the authentication cost, is that an annual or is that a?
That's a one time, so the only operational cost will be about $2,000.
Any other questions?
Okay, we're good.
Yeah, so I would motion to recommend $10,000 as raise and appropriate and $5,000 from free cash.
What were we doing before?
It was all.
All 15.
Selectman Hall has a question.
It's a procedural question. At town vote, when you have an article, that part of it will be raise and appropriate, which takes a 2/3 vote, and fund from another source, free cash. How is that presented? It's two separate votes or just one?
So like I believe in the letter that we, actually got from legal counsel earlier this week. I'll raise and appropriate as a majority vote. And it's any changes in bylaws that require a 2/3.
Raise and
So I
appropriate.
believe it's zoning bylaws.
Yes.
Okay.
So it's just a simple majority vote.
One vote.
At the same vote, correct?
Right.
So on the same vote to the same motion, and it would be, the funding sources would be outlined in the motion.
The stabilization funds take a 2/3?
Yes.
Take a
Yes.
2/3.
To take that one.
Thank you.
Mr. Administrator, so I'm using an old version of the special warrant article, I apologize. and-
Did it say 30?
Yeah, why did the price come down?
So like the initial quote that we received, was actually $26,000 a year. And, for many reasons, I just wasn't happy with that.
Not a year, just that one time.
No, the one-time authentication.
Yeah.
Is about $5,000, but the premium for the policy itself.
Yeah.
Was quoted at between 25 and 26 grand. You're looking that, in my view, that's not, it's not sustainably operationally, so that's when, I reached out and I got another quote.
Thank you.
So you wanna do 10 and 5, 10, raise and appropriate, 5K free cash flow?
Right.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor? Opposed? Selectmen Hall, just to give you an idea, usually if it's a one-time thing, we like to push it through free cash as opposed to raise and appropriate. And where it's gonna be an ongoing operational cost, that's why we left the $10,000 insurance policy in the operating raise and appropriate.
Thank you. So, I appreciate it.
No.
Okay, so the dollar amount's different, okay. Article 11 is just a difference between the proposed cost and the recommendation.
Yes.
To see if the town will vote to transfer from free cash a sum not to exceed $40,000 to be expended by Dayton Trails Committee to fund feasibility study to provide viable options and initial concepts to connect the future 2-mile DCR suites Knoll Trail to the north and south with on-road and off-road trail options to connect the town of Dayton to Taunton River Trails Network, north across the 3-mile river to Taunton, and south along the waterfront to To town administrator recommended 30,000 for this as opposed to 40.
Yes.
I'm assuming all this land is town-owned land?
No, part of the feasibility study, like it, would actually be, would actually be assessing the town, so the non-town owned land. And looking at, avenues that we might be, able to work with the non-town owners to, explore possibilities. This, is especially evident, off of Somerset Ave, behind the co-op building. As it is in the old Princess House, that area, is especially in question. I do know trails, last fall, they went to CPC, they asked the CPC, if the CPC would be interested in funding it then. The CPC said no. In the spring, the trails came forward to the town with a warrant article request. There was a lot of discussion about the trails network. From Taunton down to Fall River and New Bedford, I believe. So the importance of it, but where we were in June, we didn't really know how we were gonna close up the year, so we deferred it to, action now.
Are they planning on paving this, or, I mean, what's the end result? I mean, that's my question.
Yep.
What's the end result going to be? And then also, do they have any statistical or data, information or data behind that shows how often the existing trails are used? Because if we have minimal usage, we're talking about putting 40,000 into a study that's then gonna tell us we have to deal with X number of property owners, go buy a whole bunch of land or get an easement on the land and then carve out the trails. I mean, I'm sorry, but I look at the condition of our school properties and the fact that we can't even put in an access road to ease the traffic congestion, and we're talking about recreational type activity here. And I know that's just my personal point of view as a townsperson, but from a finance committee member point of view, I think there are a lot more pressing issues than this.
No, I understand.
The question I have is, in June, it was a request for $30,000. 3 months later, the request was $40,000. Why did they need $10,000 more in 3 months?
Yeah, so like the explanation I would see from the trails committee chairman is they wanted more flexibility based on how any proposals came in. So I think you saw my recommendation, I mean, so it was understood, like in the spring, that there could be support for 30,000. And that's where I am.
So I'm certainly not advocating to you either way, but I just wanted to give you a little bit, so I had this very same question as you, and I asked it at the Board of Selectmen's meeting. One of the priorities that has been told to the town through various surveys that have gone out via mail from different committees that have asked, what do you care about, what do you want to see? One of the things that did come back, and I totally agree with you 100% on the access road, that's why we traveled this road together on the project, which has hit some snags in the road, but part of the reason that this is on here is because residents have overwhelmingly said, when the Open Space Committee has sent out mailers to each household, have said, we want more trails and recreational spaces. So I totally agree with everything you said, I just wanted to know that. That's why it's on here. So I just also wanted to let you know that as well. One last point, if I may, Mr. Chairman. Part of the reason why I wasn't supportive of this at the annual town meeting, because this is also on the warrant then, was because we needed to, at that time, fund the shared streets and spaces projects, because we weren't sure we were gonna get that grant. So we did in fact get that grant. Now, I know how money works, it's not, now we have $120,000 that we can do something else with, but I do lean toward this, understanding that it is a priority of the residents, knowing that we are trying to get grants to free up money to do things that normally we may not want to ask taxpayers to fund. So, just letting you know, sort of the history on that as well. But I totally agree, I don't know the ins and outs of the study, so I would like some more information on that as well.
The only thing that I would like to remind FinCom is the fact that a semi-private group that receives some funding from private organizations and some funding from the taxpayers voted this down. When they went before them for the request to CPC, that CPC did vote down the request of $30,000.
Do we know why they voted it down?
The only thing that I know, and I can't speak for them, I'm not representative of that group, but the one piece, the unknown piece, is still an issue today. Mr. Brendan kind of alluded to it, that there is a big piece of land with a property owner in Somerset who has repeatedly said no. So when you're trying to connect a trail, have a landowner as a stumbling block.
It's an access point you can still get on the trail, but to Selectmen Health Point, it is a stumbling block. It would be a lot easier if we were in possession of the town of that access to the trail.
To Selectman Zagrafis's point, I have a question. You said that the Trails Committee put this warrant article forward. Did they garner signatures from taxpayers? Or was it just received by the Selectmen?
Selectmen Health.
Okay,
Yeah.
so they didn't garner the signatures?
Yeah, they did.
Okay.
No, it's submitted as a town committee.
Supporters out there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Alright,
Yeah, that's a good point. I want to put it, I'm just talking general, people said they want to see, I'm not saying there was a survey done for this specific article.
Yeah, and I'm not saying I'm for or against the item, but if it was submitted to the Selectmen with signatures, then that would give us an indication of public support.
And just so you know, we've asked that have a public meeting on all the articles, October 25th, all the players identified to come to that meeting so that the public can ask any questions that they want to. So understand that we'll be talking about this next week, so maybe we should invite the Trails Committee to our meeting, so answer any questions that we may have. Yep. And then we'll also hear from them, the public will pay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
But it doesn't answer your question. We'll get it tonight.
Article 11, I'm gonna vote no recommendation, until we get more information. I'd like to know if there's any private money that's been gifted already as well, to support the project. And to Jim's point, if this has been something that has been signed by residents as something they'd love to see in the town, and find out how much support there really is for it.
So your motion is to.
My motion is to not make an recommendation.
I second that.
Mike, would you be able to ask those questions if they come?
Yeah, like if it's okay, like I'll ask them to follow up with the FinCom as well,
Right.
Yeah.
if that's okay?
Yeah.
That'd be great. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Is it technically a hold or?
Yeah, no recommendation.
No recommendation.
Is this, Article 12, is that gonna be, we're just gonna wait on that? Let it,
So at this point, this is an article, that has been submitted actually jointly by the police, can fire, but, working with them, working with our town accountant, going through the requirements for ARPA, the rescue plan funding, I believe we should be able to fund that through there.
So you don't need anything from us on that.
I know, not at this point, it will probably go forward to capital outlay, but, yeah, a special town meeting, no.
Okay.
So there's not gonna be a motion on this one? Isn't it gonna be on there, or are we taking it out?
I haven't had otherwise, it could be just pass over.
Okay. That would be cleared up before the meeting.
Yes.
Okay,
So we're just gonna leave this as a no motion.
I think that's.
Yes.
To Article 13, see if the town will vote to transfer from free cash sum not to exceed $150,000 for engineering and design services for the Pleasant Street Bridge reconstruction project.
We had some money, we reached out for this, right?
Yeah, for the past, the better part of the last 2 to 3 years, we've been working with Representative Haddad on this. For the superstructure replacement. And right actually at the beginning of COVID, I believe, the funding, the $700,000 in funding was already actually on the verge of being approved by the legislature. Craziness broke loose. The plans were put on hold here in town, and the plans were put on hold at the state level as well. However, when plans were put on hold, at the town level, one of the things that was understood, is that the town had to fund the engineering for the project. And we haven't done that yet. So we had a meeting, the Board of Selectmen had a meeting with Representative Haddad at the Tuesday night. We conveyed to her the importance of the project and the funding for it. In the meantime, our engineering costs is still something we need to fund.
Funding this cost gets us money from the state.
Hopefully, and cross my fingers, but it actually puts us in the game and ensures we're in the game.
Goes to show that
Yes.
we're serious about moving forward. Now, that, bridge is pretty unsafe, from what I understand. It's not closed, but it's to the point where
Yes.
it may have to be. Okay.
So yes, it does have a posted limit.
Right.
I believe 7 ton, I want to say.
Yes. Think so. Might be slightly higher than that, but.
Nothing larger than a 10-speed bicycle.
That's bad.
Hey, a new trail.
Yeah.
Now coming from
Free cash.
free cash.
Yes, sir.
It used to be a street.
Any questions? Any questions on that? Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Article 14, to see if the town will vote to transfer from free cash amount not to exceed $30,000 for planning and permitting costs to redesign the driveway and traffic pattern, add a maintenance facility, Dayton Elementary, Dayton Middle School, take any action thereof. This is in addition to the $85,000 that was approved at the annual.
Last November, special.
Last special, okay.
So, if I may, so this number reflects wetlands that was unforeseen when the original project scope was laid out. We always knew that there would be wetlands to contend with, and the original amount had a number in it to deal with wetlands. What we found out after delineation was that the wetlands were more involved than we thought, and that's gonna require federal and state filings. So that's what this number is for, is to go through those federal and state filings. Army Corps of Engineers will need to get involved, and then DEP will need to get involved. And we really thrashed at trying to relocate the roadway, et cetera, it's just, unfortunately, the site is dictating, this course. So, and Selectmen's office may get into this a little deeper, but since this project has had a full head of steam for the past year, I understand you're in receipt of a letter from the superintendent from the school district that maybe says otherwise, and that this project may not be best for the school department. It came to us by surprise, because none of the discussions that we've had previously, and I've involved Barry, administrator, Selectmen's office, have involved the school department in earnest. We had several site visits, one of them was attended by maybe 30 people, so.
The plans were also changed to incorporate.
Right, based on, there was a conceptual plan based on that meeting, which was very fruitful. We went back to the plan, made some changes, and came up with, something that met the needs, and also met the needs of the school department. So now, in the 11th hour, we're finding out that maybe the school department does not want to move forward with this. To that, we had a meeting with Selectmen, and indicated that the problem is not gonna go away. And I think Selectman Chico summed it up very eloquently and said the taxpayers will decide whether they want to support this or not. It's not really up to the Selectmen or FinCom to debate whether it's worthy. It's just whether or not this project has validity with the taxpayers. If they don't mind staying in that light for an extended period of time, then so be it.
This was a request of the parents.
This was a request
This is
of the
for
Board of
the-
Education. We didn't initiate this.
So I have a couple of questions here.
Yeah.
So the first one is this may not even be a question, but, the way the regional agreement is written, if I'm not mistaken, is that this is a capital cost for Dayton schools. It will be paid for by the town of Dayton. I do not believe that the school district really necessarily has a say in this.
I would agree with that,
Okay.
yes.
They don't agree with you.
Well, they're not gonna be footing a dime with this.
Correct.
So, and quite honestly, if that's the leg they wanna stand on, then we need to start asking them to reimburse us for the modular that we put out there, things of that nature, right? The second question I would have, and, I'll look to our building commissioner, but I would also, would love to talk to our planning board. Why are we not looking at raising taxes for commercial developers who are the reason for the influx of all these new houses? And, one-off houses, yeah, not a problem, right? But when we're talking about building 20, 30, 40 houses, and we're talking about increasing the infrastructure, why aren't we having some of these developers pay their fair share, not just for that, but for our police department, our fire department, our schools? Why are we not looking at increasing those fees and or taxes for that?
A lot of our growth has been because of the 40Bs, and we can't access that anything. We can't even talk, when we have the 40Bs, we can't even talk about how it impacts the schools, fire department, police department, ambulances, all that, so. But I do agree, I think we can assess those developments for itself, for example. We can come through additional fee, or it's gonna, how it's gonna impact the town.
So I have a response. About 8 years ago, none of the current board members were on board. I brought a suggestion to the selectmen about implementing an impact fee, which is done in other parts of the country, which gets affixed to the building permit for new construction, be it residential or commercial. Mostly on the residential side because of the burdens of infrastructure. So at that time, I had done a quick calculation, and with the permit counts at what they were, we probably would have almost $1 million in the coffers right now. Unfortunately, the selectmen at that time did not support an impact fee. So the discussion really didn't go anywhere. But I can tell you that it might not be something that's talked about in New England, but in other parts of the country, it's something that's used widespread for exactly this type of problem, where we have added houses, we have added traffic, and we now have a problem at the intersection, which is gonna take a multi-layered response to try to mediate. And, this particular project is one. So I would agree with you, and I don't know if that's a discussion that we wanna start having again. It's unfortunate that we missed that amount of money up to this point, but it doesn't mean that we don't, right, it doesn't mean that we don't try to talk about it moving forward.
Maybe that's a conversation for we need a joint, buildings committee, the planning, zoning, et cetera, board of selectmen. You were, yeah, you just did something work, sir.
So the last point I want to make about this, and this goes to Selectman Chico's point in particular about leaving it up to the taxpayers whether they support this or not. But the problem that Dayton has and always has had up to this point is the fact that we never have a shovel-ready project when grant opportunities might come up. And case in point is the Pleasant Street Bridge project. We need to get those plans in order to be able to potentially receive grant funding. Now, I don't know if we can get grant funding for this, but the fact that we don't have plans tells us we can't even apply for it. So, at some point, I want to commend Robert Rendon and Administrator Mullen for really catapulting the capital planning part of Dayton. Because now we can start to look at, hey, these are the projects that have viability, they're supported. Let's get the engineering done so we have all these projects on the shelf, and when a grant opportunity comes up, we can capitalize on. So in not doing that, we lose that chance.
So I've got a question on that. I mean, I guess partly a statement. Superintendent Azar was going to be available for a call, and he emailed Mike and said that he couldn't stay on any longer past 7, so he left.
Okay.
If the school if the townspeople decide to go ahead with the $30,000 and we finish this, and the school committee continues to say we don't want you to do anything, but the people of Dayton want something done, we would move forward.
So I was fortunate enough to attend a Dayton PTO meeting the other night where this issue was brought up by concerned parents, and so I wanted to make a point about the grants first. It is true, and this point was raised by parents, that there's no guarantee of, even if we're shovel ready, we'll get a grant. And my response is, you still have to go through the same process. You just may get a grant to fund it, or the taxpayers fund it. You also don't have to proceed if you don't get the grant. You could put the project that's already been on pause, we've been trying for a couple of years now, to progress the ball forward on this project. It takes time. So there's no harm, no foul. I just want you to be aware there is no guarantee to get a grant. But I always feel like the first option should be to try to get a grant rather than ask taxpayers to fund it. It just is a no-brainer for me. So that's how I feel about that. I understand that things cost money. I understand that we received a letter that the school committee had reservations, but what I told Mrs. Kucha and Mrs. Terry, who were there from the school committee, is that this isn't an issue where it's the town versus the school committee. We all know something has to be done. What we're arguing about, I shouldn't say arguing, the issue right now is I think that the school committee got a little nervous about the price tag. So I understand that. My position is plans may be able to be changed. We haven't spent the entire $85,000. We know, regardless of whether this article passes or not, we have to come back to the table with the school committee, just like we did the first time where we changed the plans to incorporate their concerns with the property. The third thing that they brought up, which we hadn't heard of in many years, gentlemen, is the possibility of some sort of new infrastructure. and this was brought up by the parents present. Now, I'm very sensitive to maybe not wanting to touch the infrastructure if it may be changed or something might be added, so I totally understand that. My concern is, we've already been waiting 3 or 4 years for some sort of study to be done by that building study committee, and it hasn't. So I almost feel like we're back at the beginning in the sense of, if they want to get involved again, we're back at square one, waiting a couple of years. Meanwhile, the traffic is still an issue. But I want to dispel that there's some sort of friction between the two. There's not. We know we need to talk to them regardless of how this article passes. So I also wanted to let the finance committee be aware of that as well.
The other important point too is the wetlands did not create the price tag. Tom Ferry and I always had, from day one, this was gonna be $1 million or more. We knew it would eclipse $1 million. So the $1.5 million that we're talking about right now is not far off from what we discussed. Will there be some impact on price based on the Army Corps of Engineers feedback and the state's feedback? Possibly, yes. We don't know that yet, because we haven't gone down that route. And to Selectman Zagrafis' point, we don't want to do anything that doesn't work for the taxpayers, both from a traffic perspective and from a school perspective. So if there needs to be an evolution in the design in order to make and hit all those points, we're gonna do that. And we've done it once already. So we're not gonna do something, just say, hey, you asked for it, we gave it to you. It's gonna be an open dialogue. And if it changes, it changes. But at least we have the funding, or if the taxpayers support it, we will have the funding to go forward, knowing that this is necessary for the permitting for that project.
I do have 2 questions with regards to this project. And the first question came as a direct result of some comments made. We all are aware that the elementary and the middle school are close to, if not up to capacity. If there is a need, and we know there is a need, it's a matter of coming up with finances to put on an addition for another school on that property. What will that do to that road and its location? And the certainty that $1.5 million or more that we spend on it won't need to be altered and spend more. And going along with that, from my experience working with the elementary school, my experiences in time, if there is any type of road, any type of reconstruction or new construction put on that land, could the school building assistance program assist in paying that? The other concern that I have, and this is actually more of a question, has the school department looked at administrative procedure things that they could do differently to help with that traffic pattern? Or, example, dismissal times, moving dismissal times. So elementary dismiss much later than the middle, so you don't have arrival time, dismissal times with an interval in between that would alleviate the numbers. I understand the need, I understand the concerns, because the safety issue, obviously. But what bothers me is the cooperation of the groups working together. And also, some of the comments from some of the parents got back to me regarding, what that PTO meeting. Have we done all we can before we spend a lot of money? I'd be curious to see on November 18th, Town Administrator Mullin has asked all the departments to submit for review a capital outlay proposal. And I believe one of you is on the end. So what becomes a concern, knowing the big picture, the library, fire station, where would this project be on the priority list? And we don't know that answer for this. So there are a lot of unanswered questions that the request here won't answer. I've heard it mentioned, leave it up to the voters. We were given a task by the voters. In your case, the town moderator. You were entrusted because of your expertise in giving financial advice to the voters. So that's, and what I'm asking you to do. I'm not against this budget, I'm just concerned about the planning and the lack of organization of it.
Excuse me. This has been very organized, extremely organized. There's been a lot of dialogue with the school department. The only disconnect came when that email was sent out the other night. So please, I respect your opinion, I really do, but it has been anything but disorganized. The only disorganization came when that letter was submitted to Administrator Mullen. That's the first time that I heard any discontent about the project. Up until that point, it was nothing but praise from members of the school department.
In that meeting that we had at the site, about 30 of us there before you became a selectman. Dr. Azar was there, the school committee member was there, and there were other administrators from the school that were there. And they had made special requests that I think, quite frankly, boost up the cost.
Right.
I wanted to, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no,
I just also wanted to add, because it predates your time on the board of selectmen, how we have asked police, for example, to go over there and to direct traffic throughout, for the last year and a half. It's not changing the behavior, it's not changing the traffic. When the police officer is not there, everything happens again. So it's more of a temporary solution. There needs to be, and again, I agree with you. I'm also not advocating in any way. I'm just saying that something has to give, because every temporary solution that we've done doesn't end up with long-term results. And the police officer's not there, the driver's there. So we have tried.
and just in closing, I disagree with that part of your statement, but the rest of it I agree with. We're certainly not going to do anything to spend taxpayer dollars if it's going to impede on the needs of the school department down the road. They have been polled for what they need. We did configure the roadway in certain ways to allow additions to the buildings. But if those needs have changed, and after that letter the other night, I don't know what to think anymore. So those discussions have to start again.
And just so you know, the school committee has, Mrs. Kuchar and Mrs. Terry informed the meeting that night that they intend to reconvene NESDEC, who released the first report where they made forecasts on the occupancy numbers and all that. So they are going to reconvene them and reconvene the building study committee, but we should be honest that that's going to take years, to do anything. Even if they want to do that project and drive that.
I've been on that committee, that's gonna take a while. All right,
One question for you, so Lizzie, in the conversation with the two school committee members, did they give you any indication on this particular project, whether they?
They didn't. I'm going to be honest, I wasn't there lobbying anyone, so I didn't ask that question. But when I stated what I stated here tonight about regardless whether this article passes or not, we have to come back together so we can be on the same page, they all agreed with that. So I don't know if that helps you, but.
I mean, we need to do something, And if the wetlands and other features of it have to be explored further, we have to explore it. We have to explore it. And regardless, if we, approve or make the recommendation, and then you go back and sit with the committee and you realize we're not gonna have to spend the money because of whatever reasons they bring to the table, then we don't spend it, but at this point, I think we have to move forward with doing something there. I don't think we're gonna be doing anything with the building within the next 5 to 6 years, because we put on those additions that are supposed to carry us 5 or 6 years. So hopefully that'll be true, and we won't have to talk about that in 5 or 6 years. But God forbid somebody gets hurt or killed because we haven't taken the appropriate action, then that would, kind of fall back on us not making a decision. I wanna make the decision. And if there's no other questions, I'm on the motion to approve.
I just have a question. When are the rates on those modules up?
Then I really took
Yeah, that was also something that was discussed at the school committee with the task force that we had. And it made more sense to purchase them than to lease them. Because you could have additional uses for them in the future. So I'm gonna motion to approve Article 14.
That's to recommend.
What did I say? Yeah, to recommend.
From free cash.
That was slated for free cash, correct? Yes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
That's all of these on this article.
Okay.
Yeah, but all of these, all the way through that are all one.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Article 15, I'll get the transfer article with a number. I'll have funding and transfers in the current fiscal year budget.
Some are raised and appropriated, some are free cash.
Yes. If it's easy, I can walk through every one of them.
So we're just taking 10 grand from free cash and everything else, which would,
Yes. Everything else except, for the transfer,
of the 5,000,
yes,
for
would.
the accounting budget.
Yeah, and that actually gives them the offset, from the reserve fund transferring us, from us not having an accountant, for about, like a month or so. We were able to absorb some of that, transfer, $5,000 from the personnel to expense account, to offset the reserve fund transfer by $5,000.
So were all these expenses that were underfunded, were they just underfunded for the year?
Yes, so I can walk through every one of them if it's easiest. So like the public health nurse funding, we have traditionally budgeted $3,000 a year. Especially with COVID and the need for contact tracing. I forget exactly how many hours we, but 3,000 divided by 30, 3,000 divided by $35 an hour is what we have been budgeting for available hours. One of the things that have skewed, and that actually has skewed all of our information, is the fact that we have had a very part-time public health nurse who we have essentially shared with other communities. So the amount of time our former public health nurse has been able to actually dedicate to Dayton, has been even less for what we budgeted for, which is why over the last year we've had a health agent and our office manager in the Board of Health do contact tracing. Oh, and ideally, the contact tracing in other towns is done, actually by a public health nurse, who has access and is certified with MAVEN, which is the state epidemiology network. So what we're hoping to do with this, funding additional hours for the public health nurse, taking away that obligation, the responsibility from our health agent, and putting it, actually with the public health professional where it belongs. So that is that, the accounting offset, is, as I mentioned, we're taking the $5,000 that we saved in the interim. We're proposing to transfer that to offset the reserve fund transfer. To fund the accounting services as well. So what we would be proposing to backfill into the reserve account, because we've only actually used only $10,000, and everything else has been able to be absorbed by the accounting budget. There, actually, ironically, in the bill, we had a formula issue that caused the $1,000 budget, that caused the $1,000 budget reconciliation, so we're offsetting that to bring all of our expenses in line with our revenue, so we have a balanced budget. The public buildings account, when the FinCom went through its budget process for FY22, they cut the public buildings account by $5,000. At the same time, we planned for the modular building, when we're given information from a former town account that we would be able to actually encumber the entire everything that we transferred in to the public buildings account at the end of the year, which would be needed. All the hookup utility fees. When our new town accountant came on board, she has been following everything according to DOR, and actually had an issue, rightfully had an issue with something being encumbered that we actually didn't have a quarter contract for at the end of the fiscal year. So basically, that's a free cash offset. The $10,000 that we had transferred in at the end of the year to deal with that cost is now becoming free cash. And we have to pay those utility hookups. The other $5,000 of that, we had an unexpected opportunity from Bristol Plymouth High School, where they have volunteered to construct a shed over at the Briggs Garden. They've donated all the labor as an educational process, but we've have had to fund the lumber and the materials for that. The transfer from the ambulance billing fees in the budget process inadvertently didn't fund the subscription service that is needed to process the ambulance fees. So that would offset that. That's an operational cost. And finally, when our insurance premiums came in June, they were $7,000 over what we had budgeted.
So 135 is just a transfer from personnel to expense?
Is that an accounting?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, from personnel to expense in the accounting budget.
And then 174
Yes.
is which,
It's the budget for the Dayton Trails Committee, like in the formula, just wasn't, I'll actually pick up in the final version.
the reserve funds to replenish the money we took out already.
Yes, it's only $10,000.
Okay. want to take these one at a time, or?
I don't want to. I'll motion to approve. No, I mean, we've asked the questions, we've got the explanations, I feel.
I'm just asking because they're different sources.
Yeah, no, I'm okay.
Just, yeah,
As, I motion to,
As recommended by
as recommended on Article 15, with the funding sources,
from the town.
presented from the town administrator. Yes.
I second.
All in favor?
I,
Opposed?
I'm making this easy for you.
Right shoulder, left shoulder. Article 16.
Last time we did this, we went over budget. Does this take the new number into account that we went over that time? Because I think we went too conservative, then we went quite a bit over.
Yeah.
And being that we had it 2 years ago, maybe we won't again this time, but disposal fees and stuff are really pretty cracking this year. So I'm just wondering.
If we're not sure, can we
If
double
I just
check
want to help for the
and
next meeting?
maybe we need to change the number
Yeah, no, that is,
before we make obviously
Yeah,
a recommendation? Yeah, thank you, Kevin, I think that is a good point.
yeah, thanks. So right now, we're just gonna, hold on 16, yes. I think that'd be a good idea.
So your motion from the finance committee.
No?
Okay.
Article 17. See if the town will vote to transfer from free cash, $200,000 to capital stabilization,
Well, not to exceed 200.
not to exceed
I think it was
200,000.
on here for 150, was it?
Next one.
the capital was proposed at 200, the stabilization was proposed at 150.
I'd like to see us just hold off on this motion until we get to the end of the meeting.
Yeah, and see what else we
To
have.
see what we have based on free cash number we're working with.
Yeah,
This isn't their first real.
So I'm gonna jump to
19.
19. See, the town will transfer from PEG access funds, some not to exceed 14,000 to be expended by the building commissioner for 2 municipal HVAC heat pump systems for lower level cable TV, office, and town hall.
That equipment gives off heat? I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
The problem is because of the configuration of the heating system, we have a duct going in there and it can't be throttled. I can't control the temperature in that room. So with the equipment, we really need to be able to just focus on moderating the temperature in that room specifically. And the heat load is fairly significant because of the new equipment that we bought. And we're going with high efficiency heat pump style systems, which they'll be controlled just for that area. And they'll be really, really cheap to run. These things, this electric bill in this building is amazing. So it's definitely the way to go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Mitsubishi.
Yeah.
These are like Mitsubishis or something?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Any other questions?
One clarification, that would be funded by the PEG access fund,
Right.
so it
Yes.
wouldn't have any impact on.
I motion to accept Article 19 as written.
Oh, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 20. To see if the town will transfer from free cash a sum of $64,500 to be expended by the highway superintendent to purchase one mid-mounted boom mower. Good night.
Good night, Jim.
Yeah.
Yeah, this
That came up at any of this.
was.
Yeah.
We got the tractor, right, but we didn't get the mower.
Right. Yeah. We said.
Yeah, the tractor's been ordered, yes.
Yeah, we said to bring it back before.
Yes.
Can I ask you a question about this?
So,
Do you mind if I ask a question? Is this a used or a new one?
So this will be brand new, the issue is based on where, like actually the boom mowers are used. Like when the boom mowers, and we have one now, when a boom mower hits something unexpected, it can cause a boom mower to be out of service for a while. Like with a new tractor, that the highway superintendent had proposed and was approved in the fall, this new boom mower would go, with a new, with a new tractor.
Thank you.
A little more.
Yeah, Mr. Town Administrator, can you tell me what the capital stabilization fund was prior to annual and how much we spent from that fund at annual?
We took just about 100 for the lease of for the first year lease of the fire engine. And I believe at the time that brought us down to, I think the number that was presented earlier was a little bit off. Like I want to say that brought us down to right about $600,000, but I could be wrong. And
Where did this number come from? So the town account says our capital stabilization fund is at $1,033,000
so
as opposed to the $600,000 that you just stated?
I'm trying to get into our budget spreadsheet, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. As long as it's supposed to look like that.
I mean, because the difference between the $600,000.
I get it completely.
Because I recollect us being closer to the $600,000 number than the. And that's what.
My recollection is.
It only took me almost an hour and 50 minutes to realize that number was way higher than what I thought.
No, our recollection is exactly the same as Surrender.
Okay. So a question where our town account grabbed this number from.
Yes.
Okay. Alright.
Actually.
Okay. Alright, don't worry about it, Mr. Town Administrator, I think we just had a little sidebar that says, I think we are somewhere around $600,000.
No, I agree with you.
So we'll let you talk to the town accountant about that next week.
Yep.
To confirm that number back to us.
Yeah, no, as I mentioned, your number is my number.
Okay, so I think for funding this, it would be just an available from free cash.
That's Article 20,
Yes.
is that a motion, one second?
Sure.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? If you don't mind, I'm gonna hold this one till the end too.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, yeah.
To see if the town will vote to transfer from free cash sum of $6,000 to use public utility appraisals, New England Power Company, Mass Electric, and Eversource Gas is required by the Department of Revenue for FY22. This is an annual?
So it's an annual appropriation, special town meeting to fund the revaluation year in advance. and I believe the, fiscal year 25 is, next revale year. And when we get to that, we will already, funded all the expenses of the revale.
Okay, so we've already funded 2/3 of this.
Yeah, like I said, every year this is a routine thing to fund, yes, it's a special.
Then on the 5th year, we have the accumulation.
Yes, precisely, yeah.
So moved.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? See if the town will vote to transfer from free cash a sum of $8,000 to be used for the assistance for FY 23 certification revaluation of real estate and commercial property.
That's exactly the same rationale.
But for 23,
Yeah, but we've already funded.
22.
Right.
Yes.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? See if the town will vote to transfer from free cash to some $64,000 to be expended by the police chief. Purchase of one fully equipped police vehicle, including computer, firearm, patrol rifle, radio, antenna, and any accessories relative thereto. The only question I have on this, the car we bought at annual was $45,000.
Yep. So the car that was funded at the annual town meeting was like an administrative car. Like in the $64,000 would be a fully equipped cruiser.
Was that the detective's car? Is that what that one was, or was that prior year?
No, the detective's car was, I believe, I want to say 2019.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, the car for the police chief would be fully loaded.
Mhm.
Just like we did do for the fire chief, right? And we'd have all, so I don't think the 45,000
No,
was
you're
for the
right,
police
yeah.
chief. But if I remember correctly from a couple of years back, this is the more appropriate number. I
Yes.
think it was 2 years ago, it was $60K for a fully equipped vehicle, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
So this with inflation and costs, I think this is about right.
Do we know if this is, when we say a cruiser, is this a sedan or is this an SUV?
We don't,
So I'm sorry.
yeah, we don't specify it because we let the police chief do it based upon the number that he asked for, but sometimes they're replacing sedans, sometimes they're replacing the SUVs. So it's kind of, it leaves us out of the bind that we saw with the
Yeah.
commissioner.
Precisely.
64,000, it might just be a car. Who knows? Today prices. Okay, so did we motion that?
No.
Okay. Motion to accept Article 24.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Have it. See if the town will vote to transfer from free cash, sum not to exceed $3,000 to be expended by the town clerk to purchase dog licensing software.
Yes, like our town clerk, he's been incredible, at trying to wrap our arms in the town's around issues with dog licensing. In creating and maintaining a list, that evolves and is current. And also our current way of dog licensing, he writes out a form, and the template software system, he would input all the information in the software would, keep it and track it, and at the same time, based on the information that he enters into the system, it would print out, a dog license with that information, so it's really bringing what we're doing up to the ages. In the town clerk, really, this is one of the first things he's identified as a need. And I have to say, based on the issues, all the issues we're having with dog licensing and how we want to move forward, it makes a whole lot of sense that he's doing this.
Any questions?
No, sir. I'll make a motion to approve Article 25.
Second.
All in favor?
Opposed? He's talking about us.
26, you gotta defer this for a grant.
Yeah, like the, actually, the police administration, including, the chief, and the lieutenant, they applied, actually for a body worn camera grant, at the end of August. So we wanna see what happens with the grant first, and then we can revisit.
My question for you, Mr. Administrator, do we also know if they have complemented that grant with the writing of a body worn camera policy?
They have a body worn camera policy that is in the process of being written and drafted, but yeah, yes.
Thank you.
All right, so 26 is deferred, okay, so
27, to see if the town will vote to transfer from free cash fund, sum not to exceed $26,000 to be expended by the town clerk to purchase 4 new ballot scanners, accessories, technical support, implementation services for a new precinct.
Yep.
Unfortunately, I don't believe we have a choice on this one.
yeah, I was gonna say, this is not an optional one.
Where is the precinct gonna be?
Actually, the town clerk is coming before the board of selectmen, at the next meeting on Wednesday night, to talk about where new precinct 3 would be. I forget exactly where it is now, but that will be the topic of conversation on Wednesday night.
Representative Haddad, when we were at our meeting this week, had mentioned that the town clerk, Bakley, had reached out regarding whether or not any of this could be, any of these fees, I don't know how to say this, could be incurred by the Commonwealth.
Yes.
I forget what the answer was. I know you're familiar with it.
So like he isn't, in short, there isn't an answer as of yet. Then the rep for the others exploring it, with the town clerk, but with, us having a town election. Before the next special town meeting, I mean, I would recommend, having the funding in place so we can plan for it. And if we have the availability of grant funds, at the end of the day, we won't have to spend the money.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Article 28, see if the town will transfer from free cash the sum of $2,500 to be expended by the town clerk and town treasurer to purchase 2 laptops with docking stations and 1 printer for use in shared counter space at the newly renovated offices of the town clerk and town treasurer in town. This is just gonna be their normal laptop?
So what would be funding is having a laptop with a docking station at the counter, and a printer in the middle, so when, our employees get up, they can do all their business. At the counter on the network with the residents and not, exactly, have to shuffle back and forth and then print right there as well.
Any questions?
Sure.
I know, I can tell you guys that from a capital outlay perspective, this is one of the things we wanna get a handle on is all computers owned by the town, so that we can put in place a similar practice that we're using for the police cruisers, where we continuously are refreshing our technology on an ongoing basis.
Yep.
So it's something that we're looking at from capital outlay.
Sounds good.
Motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Alright, so we can,
If I should not, it's not on.
17, 18, and 21.
Should we make any gains there? Or we're gonna go with the 150? Well, actually, this number was already figured.
Yeah.
There's a few we didn't fund for cash, right?
So this, let's see,
Number 6 we're holding.
that's number 6, number 6 I think we need to account for.
That's a amount of raise and appropriate.
That's true. 7
Not doing anything.
is,
Not that that wasn't,
Do we need to,
that wasn't in anything anyway.
no,
Number 10, we just pulled 5 out of raise and appropriate and moved it to free cash, so we lowered free cash from 5.
5?
Mhm.
Number 11, we've got no recommendation on right now, so that would be 30.
Mhm.
Oops. Okay, that's left out.
oh, that's already.
Yeah.
Okay.
16 is a RNA, and we're holding just to make sure that number's right.
Yes. But we'll figure it in that number.
Right, it's raise and appropriate.
Oh,
The other one we changed was 26 on the body cams, and that was left off also.
Mhm.
Okay, so the number is pretty accurate.
Yeah, so it's 25 less, so we're at 121.
01, 1201,675 is what I have right now.
Okay. Which leaves us about 330 based on the preliminary free cash
Yes.
number. With the numbers for the Article 17, 18, and 21 as
Yes, I have confirmed as well. In our budget spreadsheet, as of March 31st of this year, we had $740,000 in capital stabilization. Then we backed out about 100, so we're right around 640,000.
So the number that you thought it was at.
yeah.
But the other numbers
Was-
was accurate.
Yeah.
The stabilization.
Regular stabilization?
That's an accurate number?
Yeah, the 1.4, yes.
Okay. All right, so,
So,
I'm gonna take 21 first. Open.
yeah, so we've been funding that regularly at
35 to 50.
Yeah, 35 to 50. So, I guess the big question becomes, with all the free cash up, because even if you add all these up, right, these are already accounted for in there, right?
Mhm.
So that's 300,000. Tell me again what happens to free cash once we don't use it?
It rolls back in.
It goes into the general fund, right?
It would end up being free cash.
So yeah, after we offset any deficits, like in personal property tax and other things, on the recap sheet, it would roll back as well.
to the general,
Yes.
so we can take a road.
Well, no, that just, I mean, I like the fact that in a year where we can,
Put extra.
where we have that much still left in free cash, taking into account these 3 articles, I think these 3 articles are, and I'm gonna be purely selfish here because I'm chairing the capital outlay committee, you know, I personally would like to see, you know, 250,000 in there. I don't wanna, obviously, I don't wanna take away all the free cash that we still have there. But we have been, remember, we had that fund over $1 million 2 years ago. And then we started using it, but we haven't figured out a way to replenish it, which is also another big line item on the capital outlay committee is how do we work with the finance committee and the board of selectmen to continuously replenish that fund, if not grow that fund, right? Because, you know, let's face it, we got a lot of big projects coming up and, you know, and Selectmen Hall, you know, mentioned a few of them, you know, with the library and the fire station and not to mention the access road for the schools, that, you know, that money's gotta come from somewhere. But if we keep, you know, using our capital stabilization for some of these smaller ticket items, which we have added up over the past few years to the tune of over $500,000, to pay for things that we would normally pay for out of free cash. I personally wouldn't mind seeing that amount raised to 250,000 here, which still leaves us 280 in free cash.
Are you thinking about even 21 with the OPEB, what is recommended at?
I like that number just because we are, and I know, you know, Ed was really good at explaining all of this and the fact that we've always funded it at 35 to 50 and we're well ahead of other communities around us and around our size. But we have an opportunity here to further jump ahead and what I think that does is it gives us some leeway in future years that basically says, hey, if next year all we can fund here is 25,000, that's great because we did 150,000 now. And the fact that if I understand OPEB correctly, this is 150,000 that's going into essentially a retirement fund that is being invested by the state. So we're gonna make more money off of 150,000 today by putting it in today if we instead wait for 5 years down the road to do that.
I mean, I think they just invest in bonds, right?
We like invest like in Bartholomew funds right now. Which is a question that I have as well. Like Bartholomew is good, and they have a pretty decent return on investment. However, but I also believe over the last few years the quit, which is a retirement fund managed by the state. They've also had pretty good returns. As we go forward, I want to look into see from an investment point of view if where we're at with Bartholomew is good, or we can have a greater return for the same risk. Anywhere else.
What is roughly the rate of return that we're seeing today?
I believe when I talked to the treasurer about this like a few weeks ago, I think that we were right around 4 to 5%, I believe she mentioned.
I think that's what it was.
Yes.
So that's my rationale for leaving the number at 150. To my fellow committee members.
So I am recommending 125. What we have done in prior years, we through the annual operating budget, we have funded 35,000. Then at the special time meeting with free cash, we funded about another 100,000 grand as well, $100,000 as well. But in actually talking with that actuary, after the FinCom process in the spring, they confirmed that in order to keep our funding level actually where we need to be, we should be funding at about $125,000 a year.
So if we leave this just the way it is, we've got roughly 330 in free cash. Do you have any concerns with 7 or 8 months left in the year? And we typically have a lot more in free cash going into the second half.
Can you give me a ballpark for typically, like just like an average?
I would say last year we had about 900 going into the second half.
And are there other things you may consider? Like I'm just getting into like the trails, I know there are a couple things on hold. Will that number change?
I
guess
It's
I'm.
possible it could go down to 300.
Okay, so, I would defer to the town administrator on this and their professional expertise.
Yeah, I mean, I think the town administrator has already indicated to us, especially in the OPEB number itself, that 125 is what the actuarial have recommended. And they certainly have a lot more data sitting in front of them than me looking at bouncing numbers off of free cash and putting 150K on a sheet of paper here. So I like the fact that our town administrator substantiated it for me. So I'm actually comfortable with his recommendation of 125.
Oh, so you wanna go lower? I was happy when they say lower.
Well, based upon the experts and the actuarials, right? That's for information I didn't know until we asked.
But you know who's gonna show up and want more? This is her rep. She comes every special town meeting and she sometimes even will amend it, as you know, to do a higher number, so. I'm okay with 125, it's not my decision, of course, but.
So leaving those 3 articles as they are, and
Yes.
keeping free cash at about 300, you're comfortable going into the second half of the year?
So yeah, like if we have an issue that is capital in nature, we do, I'll like have capital stabilization, which is hypothetically we could draw from stabilization, but we do, like also have a buffer, but like roughly $820,000 of the 1.2 million. Like in my view, like isn't. We don't actually have a lot of wiggle room not to fund based on what we value. I feel like we're only really working with $400,000 here. With the engineering, I like how the Pleasant Street Bridge with the with the other things that we're doing as well. Like I think everything is pretty tight, but I'm comfortable with it at this point.
Not waiting until a special town meeting in the spring to move more.
Like if we had an issue where we would need to appropriate that free cash, we'd have to call a special town meeting anyway. So like either way, we're gonna, I'll actually have a special town meeting if we have an issue. I don't see an issue where we are now, though, no.
We very rarely have.
Yeah.
Once we had this like a weird December special town meeting.
Well, you got snow removal. Is that a lot of that?
Because that.
It's all.
That'll go on
next year.
That's right.
Yes.
We ran over last, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not terribly concerned about it, just because of the fact that now we have 3 sources
Yes.
of income, so the stabilization, capital
Yeah,
stabilization,
that's
as
true.
well as the free cash, and whereas before, we did have more free cash available to us, and so if we did have to have a late special, we could. We've even had specials just prior to the annual, right? For a lot of balance transfers mostly, but we have had some instances where we've had to move money from free cash to a particular budget. And there's nothing that I could foresee at this point in time that, from an operating expense, which would come out of stabilization, or from a capital outlay that we wouldn't have monies available to us. So the fact that we're funding both of those really just puts it into a different bucket is all. And if we ever came to the situation of needing a special, we can use any combination of funding to support that emergency, if you will. So that's kind of my take on it.
The school's not gonna surprise us this year.
Well, I hope not. No.
But the thing it does do, in my opinion, is now instead of that free cash, us having even more free cash next year, we have it earmarked already for stabilization or capital outlay, and then in FY '23, if we have to not fund as much because we need to keep more free cash available to us, then that's how we would do it.
That's what we, is that what,
The recommendation, yeah.
that's it.
But yeah, I mean, I think if we kept that wallet. Well, actually,
221.
yeah, so 21 I think is fine the way it is, and I'll make the motion to do the 125 for OPEB.
All right,
90,000 from free cash and 35 raising appropriate.
We've already done 35, right?
No, we took it out.
Oh, we took it out, okay.
Yeah, and that's why it's the whole thing with it slipped
Yeah,
away it was.
Okay,
So can you repeat that, Chairman Roach? 90,000,
From free cash,
Yep.
35,000 raising.
thank you, sir.
so moved.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right.
So then,
We go up to 18.
yeah, so this is actually, so now I'm gonna actually look at the difference between stabilization, which in capital stabilization accounts. You're talking about 1.4 plus sitting in stabilization, but only 640 in the capital stabilization. So if you think about it, what costs more when there's an emergency? An operating expense or a capital expense?
Yes.
Capital. So the reality of it is that we need to start looking at increasing that capital account significantly more than we're increasing our regular stabilization fund. If we have a lightning strike and we have to replace every computer in town hall, and let's call that 30 computer, you're talking $50,000, $60,000 max, okay?
So hopefully insurance will pick up that cost, but
Well, yeah. So, but then if you look at, let's say, the replacement costs of fire engine that's, involved in a car accident and it's total. What's gonna cost us more? So I think our capital account needs to be growing faster than our stabilization account at this point, especially given how large our stabilization is relative to that.
Are you proposing to remedy that at the special town meeting and maybe change the numbers that are here for capital and for the regular?
Well, what I'm thinking here is let's leave 18 at 200 and let's, 17, what did the town administrator recommend for 17?
Other way
No,
around.
other way around.
Yeah.
18 is regular stabilization.
18 was recommended at 150.
Oh, okay. 18 was recommended at 150 and what was 17 recommended?
200.
So leave 200 as.
So I think I like that recommendation from the town administrator. Because then that also then goes back to your point, Chairman Roach, about leaving some money in that free cash bucket as well. So, but I think, again, going forward, capital outlay is gonna present a plan to the FinCom, to Board of Selectmen, to start making these numbers work in the reverse. That capital outlay bucket needs to be bigger than should be bigger than the stabilization.
Can I ask you, it might be a stupid question, so I apologize. Is it not possible if something unforeseeable and catastrophic happened and the town had to call some kind of almost like an emergency special town meeting, is it not possible to transfer money via maybe it's a 2/3 vote from one stabilization account into the capital stabilization account?
I would imagine you'd just be, if you were looking to use it on a capital item.
Yeah, that's what it is, that
you'd
could be
have
used for.
Stabilization, you
Yeah.
could take it out of both accounts,
Okay.
right, with 2/3.
Yeah, both require a 2/3 vote.
Yeah.
All right, so,
So 17 motion to recommend 200K.
second,
All in favor? Opposed?
And then 18 is to recommend 150.
correct. That a motion?
That is a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I have one question or favor to ask from you, Mr. Town Administrator. On the warrant, raise and appropriate everywhere in here is very clear. It always says raise and appropriate.
Yep.
And I know it's just the way that the articles come in from whoever is submitting them. But the way that we say transfer from wherever is very inconsistent from article to article. And I think when townspeople are reading the warrant, it confuses them. So you see transfer from available funds, right, around a lot of these, but then you also see, gosh, where were they? Yes, but some of them just say, transfer from the certified balance of available funds in the treasury, so if we could make that all consistent wording, it would help, I think, be better for our townspeople, and quite honestly, better for me too.
No, that makes perfect sense.
No, I agree with that. It's better for the people reading, you've had people follow it too. Because it's not clear.
The only other item, and it's not necessarily a dollar item, but it does have a finance aspect to it. Regards to Article 33, so where it's not a dollar article, I think this is more gonna be a question for you guys, or maybe it's just a statement of opinion. But in regards to the Municipal Commission on Disabilities, there was a question that I had asked Mike. Basically two different sections, one on the officers, and then the second on duties. My question / issue would be with a commission in town having a treasurer who handles funds and pays bills. I personally would not be in favor of having those types of duties anywhere beyond the town accountant, town treasurer, you guys. The elected, right, not a commission.
Well, we don't have any funds other than this budget for stipends and expenses, but we don't.
My assumption was that was meant to, the part of the establishment says that it would accept gifts. So my assumption is that the idea was that would then handle the gifts, but I would think the same aspect, that it should stay within the town accountant, town treasurer.
Jonathan was on it, is he still on?
Yes.
Jonathan?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, we have a question. You want to ask?
Okay, yeah, I heard the question. So
Okay.
the answer is, first of all, I haven't polled the members of the commission to see how they feel about a change, and I can do that if you'd like me to. The only reason this was in there was because part of our bylaws, as in terms of adopting them, this was part of the sample bylaw that we were given by MOD. So we left it in there on that basis so that we could accept gifts if we want to. I will say that according to the state and what I was informed as well, it's chapter 40, section 8J allows the commission to accept gifts. There is nothing that says we have to have a treasurer. I think as far as we're concerned, we don't have any objection. I could poll the members for your next meeting if you would prefer me to etch this in stone, to not accepting gifts directly. They tell me that if we didn't have a treasurer and we had gifts that were made to the commission, and you all could correct me on this much better than I would know, that it would be part of the 22G, and then just need as long as it's there, need to be shown as a line item in the budget each year. And if that's the case, we don't have an objection to changing this. I don't foresee that we would need a treasurer.
Jonathan, I would think that as long as the gift or donation is restricted to the council, the commission's, to the commission, the money would still be used by the commission, but yeah, in my opinion, it would be better to have a central, to continue with the same.
Exactly. And I don't disagree with you. I totally agree with you.
Thank you.
If you would prefer, I'm happy to call a brief meeting of the members early next week, obviously within the 2-day posting, just to confirm that. If that is what you would prefer. I don't want to speak for the members, but I would seriously doubt that there would be an objection.
There's a question from Selectmen Z.
Mr. Gale?
Yes, sir.
Hi, sir. Just a quick question, and it's more about how this bylaw is written. For me, it's a little bit unclear. I understand Chairman Roach's question regarding the treasurer, but when I click down to officers and specifically what the treasurer is tasked with or what their duties are by virtue of this bylaw, it doesn't say anything about managing or accepting the gifts. It mostly mentions that under general powers and duties of the commission. So I think maybe that part, I don't want to say it's in conflict because it's not in conflict, but it's just not very clear who would be managing from the commission any gifts that are received.
And I think that's because Chapter 48J doesn't have a requirement that there be a treasurer who is responsible for that. I'm suggesting that I think that was the meaning behind that. I'm not sure. Again, each commission doesn't have to have a treasurer. I know there are some towns that have had treasurers for different reasons, but in many cases, especially in smaller towns, there are not treasurers.
Thank you, sir. Chairman Roach, can I ask you a question?
You sure?
And I guess this is just for you personally. Are you more comfortable with wording such as such gifts to be managed and controlled by the town treasurer collector?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Gale?
Yes, I heard that.
Would the commission be amenable to an amendment like that? For example, on town meeting floor, I don't think you can change it in the order.
I think the answer is I don't foresee the commission having any objection to that whatsoever. However, if you would like me to formalize that, as I said, I'm happy to call a brief meeting, mid next week, just to etch that in stone. But I can't foresee that being an issue.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, I think that might be helpful just because it might be a question that could
I think to codify it makes sense, and I'm happy to do that.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Mr. Gale.
Mr. Gale, one last question on this, and it has nothing to do with finance committee, so I'm asking as a townsperson here. Prior to annual, your chapter 6 meetings, letter F, notice of meetings will be sent to the members at least 14 days prior to the meeting. I think that will at some point hamstring you guys. So I would stricken that and really go with it's the 48 hours posting that is available to the public.
Actually, when I was reviewing this before this meeting and while I was listening to the other things you were discussing, I saw that as well. So noted. Thank you.
Or you might even just say follow the open meeting laws of the Commonwealth.
It's noted. I appreciate that, and I agree. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gale.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all that I've got. Any other questions, finance committee?
On the warrant?
Hey, gentlemen?
I don't know what else on the agenda.
I have a question for you, and a simple yes or no will suffice because I have a feeling you don't want to touch it. Article 29, I think it's 29 on yours, and 30 on mine. I know there's not a specific number in there, so I suspect that's probably why the finance committee is not acting on it. Is there not gonna be any recommendation either way on that article? I guess that's my question. And I will respect, I understand and respect the answer either way. Did you have the same question?
Yes.
Okay, well, read your mind today.
That wouldn't really be our article, there's no money.
Okay, so you would make recommendations when there's an actual request if it's formed, if it's created.
Unless it's our article, which it would hardly ever be, but other than that, no,
We
we would.
would really never be here because we wouldn't be proposing a.
No, there's no dollar amount involved, we would be making a recommendation, whoever's put the article there, whoever put the article there is probably gonna be the one that stands up and reads it.
Yeah, we hope that someone from.
It'll be someone from the
Yeah, okay.
And we would probably say, you know, if we don't recommend it, you know, it could be said at that point, no finance committee recommendation.
However, I would think from just a purely financial standpoint,
Right.
to have a separate stabilization fund, separate from all the other monies, is in general a good idea. Why it's taken this long to do that, who's to say? Because smart people like us run around, right?
I suspect it's lack of answers over how it could be spent in the strengths that kind of get tied on that.
So it's taking it's taking E and D money at some point and putting it into that stabilization fund. Now, the E and D money, it'll be interesting to see how they account for that E and D money, because if that E and D money is being generated by either sets of elementary and middle schools, then the reality of it is that should go into the corresponding town's stabilization fund.
Right.
If it is something that is being generated for E and D that is related to the high school, then that should go into a shared fund. Now, how they have this worded?
Yeah.
Looks like it's just gonna be a single fund, so are they gonna commingle things? So if I came to the floor as a townsperson, that would be the question that I would be asking is how do we keep the monies separate? First off, how do you ascertain how much of the E and D is appropriate for the town of Dayton, for the town of Rehoboth, and for the commingled funding for the high school property and the buildings, right? And if they can't give me an answer on that, then my answer to that question is my vote on that is gonna be no.
Okay.
So,
That's very helpful, I really appreciate it.
I would think that, or imagine that if we were asked, I think the answer would be based on the information provided. We don't have enough information to give it.
We don't have a recommendation.
Okay.
And then the other thing is we always voted on this as well, for stabilization.
They're having a special town meeting, so the school committee presented it, and voted to approve it, I think, I believe at the end of August. At that time, roughly, the town of Rehoboth decided they weren't gonna have a special, so.
So basically, we hope it hasn't voted on this.
No, and they won't at least until the spring.
Until the spring.
till the spring, so.
There you go.
One question that I have is, if they create a stabilization account, can they, by funding, actually create two separate savings accounts, if you will? At the end of this year, return less surplus money back to the town.
I would imagine.
Yeah, I would imagine that's the whole purpose of this, that E and D money is surplus, and they've been using it to reduce our allocations.
Right.
So instead of reducing our allocations, they're gonna come asking us for more, but they're gonna set aside this money, but if they're only gonna set it aside in a single bucket, then, hey, wait a minute, we have some commingled funds now.
Right.
If someone was served 5 years on the school contract and was principal, I know how to hide money from FinCom to town of
No one from Tom is watching this.
Now that I'm in a different role, knowing what I know, that's why I'm very,
Right.
yes.
But that's honestly, that's the key point of why I brought it up and how I stated that if they can't answer those questions, then that's I'll end up watching. Matter of fact, I'll wait for this meeting to adjourn
All
before conversing more about
Any other questions?
None for me, thank you for letting me know something.
Anything else?
I just want to give a quick update on FY 22. Everything's in line. At the end of FY 21, the then town accountant and I actually started quarterly meetings with the town treasurer, with the assessor, with our whole financial team. So we're continuing those into FY 22. And hopefully those are going to be especially helpful as we start the FY 23 budget process as well. So we're organized, we're operating off of the same consensus information and so forth. We also, hopefully by the end of this month, with DOR will be getting the financial management review. I expect that at some point in the next few months, they'll wanna actually touch base and talk with the FinCom as well. We can keep you posted whenever that is.
Other questions, take a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
it. Second.
All in favor, opposed?
No, entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor say aye. Roll call. Dr. Z. Selectman Hull.